Hey, how's it going, everybody? Sir Da Vinci here, back with another weekly vendor reset video for the division. Finally back here after missing a couple weeks back, and this is my second week in a row, finally sticking to it. I did play the game a little bit, been enjoying it again, played some survival. I actually want to do some more survival now, because I like to get the, I don't tend to do the weekly challenge, or the weekly, whatever you want to call it, weekly assignment. I'll probably try to do it this time. The main one that usually holds me back is the 10 missions, but then again, there are some exotic gear that I still would like to get, so I can kind of use that as a reason to actually get some hard missions completed. And they would actually go pretty quickly too, because of my gear is capable of running through hard mode quite easily. Other than that, nothing much else to say, and I guess we'll jump right into it. Alright, so as usual, starting off the video here, we're at the special equipment vendor for Pheonix Credits in the base operations hub where all the DLCs start. We're going to take a look at the exotic weapons this week. First off, we got the Centurion here with Toxic, which is actually a pretty decent ability to have there. This one giving a 15% chance that each headshot could apply the blind status effect to your targets. That's one I usually like to get on my semi-automatic snipers, because you're going to be pumping headshots more frequently, so that 15% chance isn't going to be as low as something like a bolt action. It takes longer to actually get it, and having the blind effect will allow you to, when you blind an NPC, at least it makes them kind of stand there and give you some free shots without moving. Next up we have a Liberator. Last week was actually a really good roll. I ended up buying it right before the reset just now, actually, because I ended up forgetting about it. But we got 21% enemy armor damage, 21.6 thousand base damage, comes with Competent, Swift, and Vicious. Historian this week actually looking at least decent. The headshot damage, once again, is pretty low, but it does come with Cool-Headed. Unfortunately, it's not in the third slot. It kind of can't be in the third slot because of history repeats. But Cool-Headed is a very good semi-automatic sniper talent to have for getting back your skills. It also has Toxic, which is another, just like the Centurion, another great one to have on semi-automatic snipers. And then obviously history repeats. The Pecan this week has Meticulous, Determined, and the Pecan talent itself. And the Cassidy has Trained and Vicious. Alright, also in the special equipment vendor here, we have a pretty good AUG this time. It's got 20% critical hit chance, 24.4 thousand base damage with my firearms. This one comes with Hurried, Adept, and Deadly. I kind of wish Deadly and Adept were switched. That way you didn't have to worry about the electronics requirement. For me, at least, I'm probably going to be focusing a little more on electronics, so I'll probably be able to use it either way. But Hurried is a very good talent for SMGs. Actually, I believe it can only be on SMGs. It is the guaranteed talent on PP19s, though, in the third slot. But this one gives increased reload speed by 10%. Basically for each critical hit that you get. The minimum reload speed is 1 second, though. But that's still extremely fast, and for SMGs, which usually tend to come with a small magazine, especially the AUGs with only 25 bullets, and the MP7s, which only come 20, obviously boosted by extended mags, that's actually a decent talent to have because you're going to be reloading a lot more often. I actually played a last stand match before this, and I was trying out this nowhere near complete high-end build, but my high-end build at the moment, with stacked firearms, some toughness, and some skill power. And I was trying it, and my AK wasn't doing all that much, but my MP7 was shredding. The only issue I had is once somebody healed, I was done for because of the fact that the MP7 with a 120% magazine size increase only has 44 bullets. So, and with the high rate of fire, it eats through those bullets really quick. Like I said, it was shredding the guy's health, but as soon as they healed, I had to reload. So having Hurried is actually something that'll probably help out a bit. So Adept would be the one to roll away if you do not have the electronics for it. And I would roll something like Responsive. Oh, sorry about that. But yeah, I would roll something like Responsive instead of Adept. I think that would be the way to go. Alright, still here in the special equipment vendor. We have a classic M1A, which is actually somewhat decent at least. The main thing that really stood out for me is I haven't really played around with this high of firearms, but 71.4 thousand base damage on a semi-automatic sniper, I don't think I've ever seen one that high personally. It also comes with 160% headshot damage, and it also has Brutal, which gives another 12%. It also comes with Sustained and Capable, not the greatest talents to have there, but personally I would suggest rolling away Capable. and keeping sustained for use in PvE. That way you can get some health back on your kills. And then capable, you could roll away for something like prepared, you could roll destructive, you could roll ferocious. Actually would be a decent one if in PvE, especially with it being in the third slot. You don't have to worry about the electronic requirement. Alright, and we are now going to scroll through the gear set pieces here in the special equipment vendor. Still here in the special equipment vendor, we now have a prototype electronics mod here with 259 electronics and 3,297 skill power. The perfect mod for anyone looking to run a skill build. High electronic roll, a high skill power roll also, and having them in combination is going to make your skill power quite high. Right, and last up here in the special equipment vendor, a decent, at least, rugged mini reflex sight here, which is the major attribute of critical hit chance. It's got 7% critical hit chance, 5.5% headshot damage, and 2.5% stability. I think the better roll there would be to have critical hit damage instead of the stability. But either way, for SMG use, this is a very good sight to have. Personally, I like to roll the critical hit damage major attribute one instead of the critical hit chance, because there's a lot more benefit from 19% critical hit damage than an extra 3% critical hit chance, 3 or 4% actually. But either way, if you need a little more critical hit chance to reach that max limit, this is definitely a decent one to use. Alright, we are now moving over to the blueprint vendor here for Pheonix Credits in the base operations hub. The first one we have here is an SASG 12 blueprint, which is very good for, especially for anyone using the striker build, as this is probably one of the best shotguns in the game. I know they nerfed the flinching from it, but it's still going to be a very good way of stacking up your strikers, or your whatever you want to call them, with the striker build, and being able to dish out more damage with every other primary you're using. We also have the classic M44 carbine, which is one of the highest base damage bolt action snipers in the game. We also have the firearms mask, the stamina knee pads, the quick release magazine, the angled grip performance gear mod, and electronics gear mod blueprints. Now, as usual with every other video that I make, definitely still come here to this vendor, because if I have purchased the blueprint already, it's possible, well actually, if I've already purchased it, it's not going to show up here. So for example, if the lightweight M4 blueprint was on sale here today, it would not show here for me because I already have that blueprint. So still, always, whether I watch this video or not, always check this vendor out just in case I have a blueprint that is on sale this week. Alright, moving upstairs into the base of operations now at the advanced weaponry vendor for base credits. We start off with a pretty nice PP19 here with 21.5% critical chance, 23.6 thousand base damage with my firearms. This one's rolled with Deadly, Meticulous, and Hurried, which is the guaranteed third slot talent for the PP19s. As I was saying before, it is a pretty good talent, especially for the SMGs. Personally, I wouldn't necessarily suggest using it over something like Responsive, or if you need the extra critical hit chance like Adept or something like that, due to the fact that this isn't necessarily going to increase your raw damage, but it will increase your DPS due to the fact that you're going to be reloading a lot quicker. But if you're using it with like an Alpha Bridge build, then you kind of get the talent for free anyway. So personally, what I would suggest is rolling away Meticulous, although in something like PvE, if you're going to be killing enemies quickly with your, for example, well, PP19, being able to instant reload the mag is quite nice and not really have to worry about the reload speed. So I guess it's kind of up to you which one you think would be the better choice to keep, Meticulous or Hurried. Roll away one of them. Like I said though, personally I would suggest Meticulous, since you don't really need anything in the third slot there that requires high electronics or anything like that. So I would roll away Meticulous for what I would say maybe Responsive would probably be the best bet. Alright, still in the base of operations, now at the Dark Zone gear vendor, which is in the security wing, in case you guys didn't know this existed. We have a really nice extended mag here. Unfortunately, it's for Dark Zone funds, but also fortunately at the same time, it is only 21,000, which is really easy to get if you go into the Dark Zone, get some extractions or anything like that, or just kill some bosses and you'll easily get some funds. But anyway, this one's got 120.5% magazine size, 4% critical hit damage, and 5.5% rate of fire. My personal preference is to have the critical hit chance instead of the critical hit damage. But either way, with this being a 120.5 magazine size, I believe the max is 121, at least that I've ever seen personally. And the highest rate of fire you can get is 5.6. This is still a very good extended mag to get. Alright, now right toward the entrance of the base of operations here at the weapons vendor, we scroll all the way down to find another extended mag here with 118% magazine size, 4.5% reload speed, and 4.9% rate of fire. Obviously not as good as the one from the previous vendor, but due to the fact that this is only costs base credits, if you need extended mags, not a bad one to pick up. Alright, finally out of the base of operations, moving up toward the northwest corner of the map to the Wolves Den safe house here at the weapons vendor. We have a couple of things here. First off, we have a first wave vector here. Not the greatest, but due to the fact that it's base credits, if you need a vector or you want to try one out, not a bad one to pick up here with 22.5% critical hit chance, 22.4 thousand base damage with my firearms. It comes with Unforgiving, Accurate, and Responsive. Unforgiving is a very good talent, whatever weapon you're using in any gunfight in PvP. It is a very good talent as long as you have the stamina to use it, unless it's in the third slot, of course. It also has Accurate and Responsive. So the choice for me here, obviously I do not currently have enough stamina for Unforgiving with the build that I use. Unforgiving is not something that I end up using. So I personally would be rolling away Unforgiving for probably Deadly. Deadly and Responsive, in my opinion, are the best SMG talents to get, so definitely keep that one in mind. Accurate will help with SMGs quite a bit due to the fact that they're not as accurate as most other weapons in the game. Their skill base is more toward close range combat, so even though gunfights are going to be happening up close, it's nice to have a little bit more accuracy, especially 25% is a big boost. So that's my personal preference, just because of the fact that my build revolves more around firearms than it does stamina, so Unforgiving doesn't really come into play. But if you do have the stamina for Unforgiving, definitely keep it. Like I said, it's a very good talent, especially in PvP. You roll away Accurate for Deadly, and you've got yourself actually a very good vector here. And also here in the Wolves Den safe house. Also scrolling down here to find another extended mag, of course. I feel like each week has at least 4 or 5 extended mags to show off. But this one here has got 119.5% magazine size, 4% critical hit damage, and 3% critical hit chance. So if you're someone who doesn't necessarily need the rate of fire, and you're just looking to spend some base credits for an extended mag, this one's got nice size, got the critical hit damage, and the critical hit chance, so your DPS will be jumping up quite a bit. Alright, we are now in the southwest corner of the map at Camp Hudson, the hub where you originally start the game. At the weapons vendor here, we have a decent military Scar H with a semi-automatic sniper rifle. It's got 154% headshot damage, a little toward the lower side. I guess it could definitely be higher. 76.3 thousand base damage with my firearm, so just keep that in mind. Comes with Swift, Prepared, and Harmful. Prepared is great for sniper rifles, at least for the most part, because most of the time you're going to be using it from quite afar anyway. And having Harmful almost completes that because of the fact that, at least in my opinion, the main use of Harmful is basically in PvP, you got a target running away and you want to slow him down. Switch out to the sniper. Prepared, if he's farther away, will give you another 15% increased damage to scare him up a bit. Maybe you have to make him heal, or even just finish him off. And then having Harmful slow them down while you're hitting them with the semi-automatic shots. 15% chance to apply the bleed. So after about 8 shots, you should be pretty much guaranteed to have caused bleed on them. Swift is the one I would roll away for something like Brutal. You could, if you're looking for like a PvE weapon more, which actually Harmful doesn't really help as much with, but it'll still do some damage from the bleed. You could do Destructive or Ferocious if you have the electronics for it, but personally I would suggest Brutal. Alright, also still here in the same vendor at the hub, we've got another Tyrant Suppressor, not really another, but we have a Tyrant Suppressor here, which is primarily for SMGs or even pistols. It's for smaller weapons, obviously you can see in my list there at the bottom. It comes with 7% critical hit chance, 4% critical hit damage, and 6% headshot damage, all 3 rolls, which you do want on your suppressor. as I personally use, I suggest using suppressors or muzzles that have the critical hit damage as a major attribute. So you could get something like 19% critical hit damage and then maybe 3 or 4% critical hit chance. So less of a loss from the critical hit chance and a large increase in critical hit damage on top of the 6% headshot damage, which would be great. But if you need that little bit of extra critical hit chance, then this is definitely not a bad suppressor to pick up. Alright, we are now here at the Meat Locker safe house. Here at the weapons vendor, we have a pretty good hunting M44 here. Headshot damage a little lower, 157%. 154,000 base damage, which is very good, especially on bolt action snipers. For talents, we've got Toxic, which is great for any sniper really, but some automatics kind of shine and take more advantage of it, but still pretty good to have on the hunting M44. 15% chance of applying the blind status effect with each headshot. Like I said before, it's great for basically blinding a target that you might be like a tankier, tougher enemy like the LMG guys. Blind them and then be able to drop their health and take advantage of like an assault rifle or something like that with enemy armor damage to drop the rest of their health while they're blinded. It comes with a prepared, which is great for which is great for sniper rifles due to the fact that most of the time you're going to be firing from quite afar. And Unforgiving would be the talent to roll away for something like Brutal. You could probably get Harmful if you want, but seeing as how it's a bolt action, not a semi-automatic, it's not really going to be as effective, so I would definitely suggest rolling Brutal instead of Unforgiving. Alright, also still here in the same vendor, we scroll down to find a decent small grip here with 17% critical hit damage, 2.5% stability, and 5% reload speed. This is pretty much good for your assault rifles and your SMGs. The small grip, basically the only grip that has like a major attribute that increases your damage in any way. The only other ones are really like increased stability, increased optimal range, and increased reload speed, stuff like that. So having that increased critical hit damage, no matter what weapon you're using, obviously if you don't have high critical hit chance, you're not going to take as much advantage of it with like assault rifles over SMGs, but it's still nice to have instead of something like stability or reload speed, especially if you do not have an issue keeping control of your weapon. Alright, now here in the southeast corner of the map at the Ward safe house, we have a decent chest piece here. It's an operator vest with the talent Reckless, which most people should already know, but it increases your damage by 8%, but it also increases incoming damage by 10%, so it's kind of a risk for a reward. It's definitely worth using in a way, especially for anyone being glass cannon. It's not a bad one to use. Unfortunately, the armor on this one is a little low. But it's rolled with electronics, which personally I wouldn't be using. I'd be using something like firearms or stamina. But the attributes on it are already rolled pretty much perfectly, at least in my opinion. It's got 10.5% exotic damage resilience, 16,540 health, and 54% ammo capacity. Right now, exotic damage resilience is a very important thing to have, especially in PvP. Due to the fact that a lot of people are using the short bow knee pads, including myself, because they're goddamn amazing. Which means basically any frag that's going to be thrown at you by anyone using them is probably going to be a guaranteed hit, as long as they don't throw it way off. Or if you see it coming, you could roll out of the way in time, luckily. But having exotic damage resilience is going to reduce the damage from that. It's going to reduce the damage from seeker mines. It's going to reduce the damage from turrets. It's going to reduce the damage from any sort of element, so shock turret, fire turret, all that kind of stuff. So definitely exotic damage resilience is always good to have, especially back before they nerfed the freaking seeker mines. I mean, like, people were kind of complaining about being one-shot by it, but roll some exotic damage resilience and you won't be having as much of a problem, at least. On top of that, it's already got health as another major attribute, and obviously the ammo capacity in the minor attribute is like the only thing you could ever want there, so not a bad one to pick up. Alright, next up here at the Southpaw safe house at the gear vendor, we scroll all the way down to find a prototype performance mod here with 4.5% support station healing speed. Anyone looking to run a support build with something like Reclaimer with the support station will definitely want to be using this as their prototype performance mods, due to the fact that it's going to increase that healing rate, keep your teammates alive, keep yourself alive, and definitely be very helpful as a support build. Alright, to start off the Dark Zone checkpoints here at the East 46th Street Dark Zone checkpoint, at the Dark Zone vendor, of course, we have a decent G36 here. It's got 18% enemy armor damage. I believe it's the lowest roll, unfortunately. 22.9 thousand base damage with my firearms. It comes with a responsive, brutal, and focused. Focused being the guaranteed talent on the G36s in the third slot. So responsive is very good for assault rifles and SMGs and shotguns, especially since in PvP you're going to be up close anyway, getting that increase of 10% damage while within 10 meters of the target. Comes with brutal, very good for assault rifles. Right now, I guess the better way to go is for critical hit chance and critical hit damage. I guess for both SMGs and assault rifles, from what I've heard at least around. But the brutal is very nice, especially in PvE against any targets that you're pretty comfortable being able to hit their heads. Focused, I'm personally not a fan of, but it is the guaranteed talent on G36s. But of course, with it being in the third slot, you could roll that away. One thing you could do is if it's going to be a PvE focused weapon, you could roll for Ferocious, which is a good talent to have in the third slot because it has a high electronics requirement, and it's very good for PvE content. You could roll something like Deadly to have both brutal and deadly, so you can focus on headshot damage and critical damage. There's a couple others you could probably roll too, but unfortunately, at least in my opinion, it's not necessarily all that worth of a weapon for me due to the fact that I don't really run the Dark Zone all that much, so I don't have the Dark Zone funds to afford it. But if you are someone who runs the Dark Zone and you like G36s, then definitely check this one out. Alright, next up here at the East 40th Street Dark Zone checkpoint, we have a very good drop here. A tactical AUG here with 18.5% critical hit chance, a little on the lower side. We got 23.6 thousand base damage with my firearms. It comes with Deadly, Responsive, and Vicious. Deadly and Responsive, like I said, are probably the top two SMG talents to have already on it. Vicious is a good SMG talent with the increase of that 10% critical hit chance, but you could easily roll that away for Competent, which is probably the third best talent to have on SMGs, especially in the third slot due to its higher electronic requirement, and it's going to boost your damage up quite a bit, especially after using skills. You could also roll something like Adept in that slot, which increase of 7.5% critical hit chance after using a skill, but personally I would suggest Competent, and you'll have a very good AUG. AUGs are quite good right now, and with the increase of the magazine size, max magazine size increase, the mag size, I believe, can go up to, let's see, 120% mag would get it up to 55 bullets, I believe, which is actually quite good because the RPM isn't all that high on the AUG. It is one of the higher ones, but still definitely not as high as the MP7. But the AUG also scales very good with firearms, so if you're running a firearms build, that's going to be very good because the only talent you have to worry about is Responsive with a low stamina requirement, though. So as long as you're at about 3,000 stamina or higher, you're good. So this is definitely a good AUG to get. Once again, it's Dark Zone funds, 416,000 of them, so you're going to have to grind a bit if you're not really someone who plays in the Dark Zone, but definitely a good pickup if you have the chance to get it. Also here in the same vendor, we have a loud vent break, which complements the AUG very well due to this being a very good SMG muzzle to get. 18% critical hit chance, 18% critical hit damage, 2.5% stability, and 3% critical hit chance. You could get headshot damage instead of the stability, which I would actually prefer, but definitely still a good loud vent break, especially since it's only 24,000 Dark Zone funds, which is a lot easier to get. Alright, next up here at the West 53rd Street Dark Zone checkpoint at the Dark Zone vendor, we scroll down to find a pretty nice prototype stamina mod here. 262 stamina and 3,127 health. 262 stamina is quite a high roll, and having the extra health on top of it is making for a very tanky build. So if you're looking to make one like that, then definitely grab a few of these, throw them on your gear. Alright, next up here at the East 61st Street Dark Zone checkpoint, up toward DZ08 and 9. Here at the Dark Zone weapon mod vendor, we have an extended mag here with 116% magazine size, 4% critical hit damage, and 5.4% rate of fire. I believe the one in the base of operations Dark Zone vendor there was a little better than this one, but if you do not like that one better than this one, then feel free to come on down. 21,000 Dark Zone funds for this, 116% magazine size, 4% critical damage, 5.4% rate of fire. Not a bad roll, obviously, like I said before. This is almost a perfect combination of attributes here. The only one I would change is critical hit chance instead of critical hit damage, but still a pretty good extended mag. Alright, heading on into the Dark Zone here at the DZ08 safe room. We will look at the gear set pieces in the Dark Zone special vendor now. Alright, now up here at the DZ09 safe room, we will look at the gear set pieces in the Darkstone Special Vendor here now. Alright, and finally here at the DZ06 safe room, we will look at the gear set pieces here now. Alright guys, well that's going to do it for this week's vendor reset video for the division. Thank you all for watching once again. Last week was a little bit lower views, but I'm going to assume that that's because of the length of the video. I believe it was over 30 minutes. And obviously I know a lot of people don't really like the length of the videos, but the reasoning for that, or the counter to that, is the fact that in the description I will always put the timestamps for when you can find a specific item. I will put the name of the item. I will put actually in the last video I started putting what type of currency it's gonna cost you. That way, if you're someone who likes to avoid the Darkstone ones because you don't really have Darkstone funds, you can skip past that. And also, it'll allow you to notice that, say it was something in the that cost Darkstone funds that you might actually want, you can actually see that it's going to cost you Darkstone funds, and it'll maybe make you want to do the Darkstone a bit, grind it out, get some Darkstone funds to be able to afford it. So obviously the timestamps save you time. You don't have to watch the entire video. You can click each timestamp and see the item if you don't want to listen to me to give you an explanation or information on how it can be used to its maximum benefit, or how it can be implemented into your build. And that's fine, not an issue, but I like to put that stuff in because I have had feedback of people who actually appreciate the fact that I take the time to give you information on that kind of stuff. And it allows me to kind of do like a two-step video where it's here's the vendor reset, and here's also some information that you might not know, or that'll maybe help you out, especially if you're not really like a hardcore player of the game. That way you can kind of help build your builds easier with a little bit of information that I give on the items each week. So, like I said, the videos are for everybody. If you don't like the extended length, timestamps. If you do like the extended lengths, feel free. I do try to keep the video between 15 and 20 minutes. It's just that sometimes I do like to give a lot of information. I end up rambling on a little bit about certain items. I don't really want to cut it out because it'll look weird in the video, and it'll also just kind of get rid of the point of me giving information on the item. So thank you all for watching again. If you did enjoy the video, please leave a like. Always appreciate it. It's going to help me out and maybe getting bigger. I do want to move out of making just this series. I just need the time to be able to do it. I need the funds to be able to get myself some more things to be able to make some better videos. And I also need to get some more experience to be able to better myself at being a YouTuber. So once again, thank you all for watching. Like I said, leave a like on the video if you enjoyed it. Comment down below. Any feedback is always appreciated, whether it be negative, positive, or just anything that will help me out in becoming more successful. And obviously, if there's anything that you would like me to implement into these videos, then feel free to give me some feedback on it. So, I'll see you guys next week.